Blessings, namaste, and love, everyone. I am spiritualist, psychic, astrologer, and medium Ray Sette. As always, I thank you for allowing me this opportunity to share with you my astrological and spiritual insights. And in this segment, we are addressing some of the significant planetary phenomena of the month of June 2023. I emphasize significant phenomena because even on a daily basis, there could be countless astrological alignments taking place. And so, certainly not to overwhelm and confuse, we address, or rather, I choose to address, the more prominent ones in hopes to inspire you, guide you, to give you perhaps a backdrop as to how to craft this energy to serve a greater purpose for yourself and certainly for the highest good of all. I always suggest to recognize that when we truly honor our intentions and honor those from a place of love, we not only create what we desire for ourselves, but also all that we create really does serve a higher purpose for the greater good of everyone. So I do inspire you to really recognize and to cast those intentions in motion always from that place of love, and encoded with those intentions for the highest good of the all of humanity. Now, we begin June with a full moon, and our full moon is on June 3rd, and the exact time of the full moon is 10:42 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Now, I always suggest to recognize that when I give the time zones, they are in Eastern Time, and then you want to just kind of calculate and adjust accordingly to where you are, where you locally reside. Now, the full moon on June 3rd is in the sign of Sagittarius, and it's just over 13 degrees of Sagittarius, and it's close to the middle of the sign. Now, each sign is measured in degrees and minutes, and each sign is 30 degrees. Now, the midpoint of a sign is very significant and is similar to the keystone in an arc structure. That keystone is the strongest point, and it needs to be the strongest point, so that establishment, so that structure can maintain its integrity and remain strengthened. Now, the midpoints of signs in astrology, midpoints are important points because they do emphasize and energize some of the greatest qualities of that sign. Now, what I want to address at this full moon specifically, being in the sign of Sagittarius, the full moon, the moon is in the sign of Sagittarius. It's opposite the sun, which is in the sign of Gemini. Now, Sagittarius represents the higher mind, the higher self, higher knowing, higher insights, spirituality, inspiration. It also is representative of higher truth. And now that higher truth in this realm of consciousness is very much specific to us on a personal level. Yes, there are understandings which can apply across the board, which do offer a greater understanding of experiences. But we in these, especially in these last few years, we've all been inspired to really honor our truths. And it doesn't mean that someone else's truth is wrong or incorrect. In this realm of consciousness, we can only be accountable and responsible for our own journey. And we are so being inspired to really become very clear with whatever might be our truths. And when we establish these truths, as I said earlier, we always hold the intention for the highest good of all. And when those intentions are cast in motion from a place of love, with that intention of love, it certainly does serve a greater purpose, a higher purpose for ourselves and as well as others. And when we cast those intentions from that place of love, we will be shown by Spirit as to certainly what a higher truth for ourselves would be to serve a greater purpose for ourselves and our path and our journey while we are in this human form. And it's certainly, as I said, it's not to discredit the truth of another. This is to honor our truths and to be respectful of the truth of another, because we don't always understand how those truths, how those beliefs and understandings are serving a purpose for another. They may not necessarily apply to our path. However, they certainly could be very well applying and serving a greater purpose for another, if also the other is also allowing themselves to really be shown, be guided, and to be in alignment with higher consciousness, inspiration, and the intentions of the cosmos. Now, I'm highlighting all of this specifically at this full moon, being in the sign of the higher mind, the higher self, higher consciousness, inspiration, philosophy, spirituality, higher knowing, and higher truth. This is very much an opportunity to allow yourself to be guided by spirit as to all that might serve a greater purpose for you, and to may help you recognize, understand, and maybe even define that higher truth for you on a personal level. Now, every one of us has this energized, etheric, umbilical cord connection to the higher mind, the higher self, the mind of God, if you will, to the higher intelligence of the cosmos. Now, in order to properly facilitate that transfer of energy, those downloads of information, that etheric umbilical cord connection, it is necessary for it to be operating at its optimum performance, meaning that it needs to be free of the etheric debris and matter that can convolute and sometimes confuse the information that's coming through from the higher mind and the higher self. It's very similar to static electricity on the phone line. When there's all that etheric, energetic interference, we're not able to hear clearly what is coming through from the other end, so we are inspired to clear these etheric connections that every one of us has the opportunity to work with, so that we can be guided by and from spirit. I've offered many suggestions over the years as to how to clear those connections, not only clear that etheric connection that we have with the higher mind and the higher self, but also how to clear our energy, our aura field, which also, when there's particles of the debris and matter and the integrity of that etheric protection has been compromised, we can be very susceptible to negative influences, discord from the outside world, and certainly these days there's an overwhelming amount of discordant energy running rampant in the outside world. You know, one of the many suggestions that I offer is the information contained in the book Spiritual Clearings by Diana Burney. And in fact, Diana and Lori will be conducting a Facebook Live in the coming days. Diana will be sharing with you some of her insights regarding the importance of really working with spirit to clear ourselves, to keep ourselves grounded. Also, when we work with the receiving this intelligence from the higher mind, we need to be anchored and grounded with the energy of the earth. You know, when we're working with spirit, when we're dealing with spirit, because we're in the physical form, we need to be very aware to keep ourselves anchored and grounded. Otherwise, when we're toggling between worlds, if you will, it can create confusion, discord, sometimes even a sense of disorientation. I'm inspiring everyone, especially at this full moon, to really clear out that connection you have with the higher self. Allow yourself to recognize what you're being shown, what spirit is sharing with you personally to assist you in guiding you. Also, perhaps ask to be shown a higher truth as to perhaps what is occurring in the outside world, so that we can all have a greater understanding from a spiritual perspective what is unfurling in our world, which certainly all that is unfolding really is for the highest good of all. You know, we're all being inspired to recognize our connections with the spirit realm, so that we have an understanding that we have these higher levels of consciousness and this element of love that is here to guide us, to inspire us while we are here in human form. You know, also sometimes, and it's not necessarily always a malevolent intention from another, but sometimes we are misled and misguided. However, the spirit realm will always guide us from a place of love, because it only exists from that place of love. So at this full moon, certainly we are very much all being inspired to recognize this connection that we all have with the higher mind and the higher self, to allow yourself to receive guidance, inspiration. Inspiration is also very much connected with that Sagittarius element, which is ruled by Jupiter. So also the sign Sagittarius represents abundance. And as I've also said in the past, abundance is not specific to only monetary matters. Abundance is in all elements. And I've always suggested to recognize that sometimes we inadvertently create abundance in the area of lack. And it's all based on the intentions that we have set in motion. So certainly allow yourself to be aware if you're miscreating abundance in the area of lack, especially at this full moon, and to dissolve that in disharmony, and to cast in motion the intentions which are very much in alignment with your desire for abundance in positive ways, and not necessarily negative ways that are not always serving our greater purpose. We will be shown many signs in the heavens from the spirit realm, letting us know that we are on track, that everything is going to be okay. There is a somewhat volatile alignment between Pluto and Jupiter at this full moon. Now, I always emphasize that when we allow ourselves to really recognize the potential polarities of the signs, the negative and the positive, and direct our attention towards the more favorable vibrations, then the outcome certainly serves a greater purpose for us. Remember, there's really no bad or good in all of this, as I understand it. There's positive and negative, but that's not necessarily bad or good. Positive, negative are frequencies and polarities and different vibrational elements, no different than as in a battery. Those positive and negative charges are very much necessary for the optimum performance of that battery, not necessarily bad or good. It's just as such with the planetary energies, the signs, the planets, whatever that might be, the alignments. And when we really understand how to craft the energy and these opportunities in ways that are serving for us, then we receive a more favorable outcome. When we resist and we do not allow ourselves to go with the flow, then perhaps we miscreate a less than favorable outcome. Now, what I was highlighting is the alignment between Pluto and Jupiter at this full moon. Now, Jupiter is the planetary ruler of Sagittarius. Now, between Pluto and Jupiter, there's what's known as a 90-degree square alignment. That in and of itself connects and contains a tremendous amount of energy. That square alignment is very similar and is equated to Mars, and we understand how Mars is the planet of energy. The square alignment is creative and dynamic. The square energy presents opportunities for creative growth, but it also suggests and presents the element of change. Now, if we resist change, then we are inadvertently throwing a monkey wrench into the situation and creating a less than favorable outcome. When we allow ourselves to welcome change and to go with the flow, that change fortifies and stimulates creative growth. It stimulates the ideas, the imagination. And as I said, creativity, I've said this many times, creativity is not specific to art and music. Creativity is multifaceted and multi-dimensional, and every one of us, at the core creative level, if you will, we are creative beings, and we are here to demonstrate that creativity. Creativity is the inspiration, and then channeling that energy and bringing it to form into something which we hope to be positive. That's just a very simple, rudimentary explanation of creativity. So I do inspire everyone to recognize how spirit is inspiring you, how the imagination is being stimulated. That's very much the creative process. And again, creativity is multi-dimensional and is demonstrated in many, many, many forms. I've always suggested to recognize your own personal, unique, creative expressions, demonstrations that again are not specific to art and music. You see, so certainly at this full moon, allow yourself to recognize how Spirit is guiding you more so than at any other time. Spirit will guide us at any time, but certainly sometimes there are alignments such as this that are much more conducive to this inspiration and guidance, and so much clarity, so much information regarding higher truths are very much being shown and shared with us. We also need to not be afraid of whatever that might be. Whenever it is that we are fearful, that fear prevents, because it interferes with the reception and we having the ability to receive this guidance. That fear will block it from coming through. Whenever I'm working with a client and I'm being shown that they will be receiving greater clarity, greater knowing, inspiration, to not be afraid of what is being shown, because that fear will not allow you to receive that information. Remember, Spirit cannot interfere with our free will. So if there's a fear of what it is that's being shown, it will block the process and the reception of this information. So much clarity is being shown to every one of us regarding higher truths that are being presented in the outside world. This is really what Revelations and the Apocalypse is all about. It's not Revelations and the Apocalypse has nothing to do with destruction. Revelation simply suggests to reveal, as does the Apocalypse. And what is being revealed to many are higher truths. And in these next few months, certainly many of those higher truths will be disclosed to everyone. And all of this is designed to serve a greater purpose for everyone, that no one is left out of the blessings. And this is what I suggest, to allow yourself to really recognize, but also to allow yourself to receive those blessings as well. Because if we are not welcoming, if we do not feel we are deserving of those wondrous blessings that every one of us by birthright is designed to enjoy, then we prevent and we block the universe from sharing with us its abundance, its higher knowing, its higher insights. I learned a long, long time ago that every one of us has a genius potential, and that genius is very specific and individual to our individualization, if that is a term. So I do suggest for you to really recognize this intelligence, this higher intelligence that exists in every cell of our being. When we talk about the higher mind, that element is very present in all of us. And the higher mind is not specific to the organ of the brain in the physical form. The higher mind exists in every cell of our human being. So certainly let yourself recognize this great potential that exists, that already exists within you, especially at this full moon. Let yourself awaken to that higher knowing and that higher level of recognition of your human being, certainly to serve a greater purpose for you, your path, your destiny, as well as to serve a greater purpose for the all of humanity. Finally, one more thing with that Pluto-Jupiter alignment, that's really energizing this connection with the higher mind. And it's also giving us the opportunity to recognize the power potential of the mind as well as our creative ability. The power contained in Pluto is staggering. That power is equal to what is released during an atomic detonation. Just imagine the gravity, the magnitude of that power. That's the power of the mind. That explosion is a negative connotation. And the positive level, if you can imagine what can be brought to form creatively on a very positive level that is equal to the destruction of atomic bomb, that's also the creative potential of Pluto. And you see, whenever an individual is offered the opportunity to really know their power, something will come along to attempt at derailing and distracting an individual from being very aware of what is being brought forth regarding the knowing of the power. So certainly in the outside world, we may feel as though, or we might even observe, situations taking place that might try to thwart our individual efforts at really knowing our power. However, whenever we honor all of this within ourselves from a place of love, remember, nothing has power over us. I always emphasize that nothing can override our free will. No matter how dark, evil, or malevolent something may seem, even to the level of a demon, it has no power over us if we do not allow it to really override our free will. You know, that certainly does not suggest that we try to control, manipulate, or disempower another. This is so that we can recognize that we are the master of our destiny. Another Sagittarius element that is once again being birthed in all of us, the knowing that we really are the masters of our destiny. Now, our new moon in June will take place on June 18th. Now, as I've always addressed, that prior to the new moon, we have the last phase of the new moon lunar cycle, which is referred to as the balsamic moon, which is the opportunity to energetically prepare for all that is coming together for us at the time of the new moon, and to clear away any discord. It's a time of clearing, cleansing, and purging. It's the dark moon, and again, it's a time of preparation for the lunar cycle. The balsamic moon phase begins on June 14th at 5:13 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and we have our new moon on June 18th at 12:37 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And the new moon is in the sign of Gemini. Gemini is the one that most represents communication. Now, this lunation, it's at the last degree of Gemini, so we are being inspired to really recognize how perhaps there may not necessarily be an alignment with the spoken word and our thoughts, words, and deeds. You know, the creative process is threefold. It is based on thought, word, and deed. The thoughts, the spoken word, and then our actions. Those three elements really define the creative process and what it is that we are bringing to form. This new moon is very much an opportunity to recognize the power of certainly the mind as well as the spoken word. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, which is the planet of thoughts, speaking, communication. So at this new moon, we are being inspired to be very much alignment with thought, word, and deed. And when there is a congruency with those three elements, then we have the ability and we are so much more empowered to bring to form our greatest and our truest desires. So certainly at this new moon, allow yourself the opportunity really to recognize the power of the spoken word. I learned a long time ago, I'm not remembering exactly where this came from. I became very much aware of the process of meaning and holding intention and congruency with everything I think, say, do, and feel. Say what you mean what you say. When there is an alignment and a congruency with those elements, then we bring to form our greatest desires and what it is that we hold as our most dear intentions. When our thoughts are not in alignment with the spoken word, then there's confusion and chaos, if you will. So at this new moon, or perhaps prior to the new moon, during that balsamic moon phase, allow yourself perhaps to be shown by Spirit where there are these discrepancies and to be shown how to correct those incongruencies, so to even further recognize how every one of us has the power, the potential, and the ability to really become the master of our destiny. I've said quite often that I believe it was in 2013, 10 years ago now, and it connected and was represented by a Pluto alignment to the Sun of the United States, especially here in the United States. We were very much being offered the opportunity to really know our power, and as always, to really embrace that constituent of our human being from a place of love and humility and not ego and greed. When we truly know that power and we are very humble with that potential of that creative potential of our human being, then we very much are in a place of peace, harmony, and joy, where we recognize we are the master of our destinies, really to really control and direct the energy of our lives, and certainly not to control or interfere with the path of another. Now, on June 21st at 10:58 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, we have the summer solstice, and the sun moves into the sign of Cancer. You know, one of the strongest elements of Cancer is its ability to be very empathic. You know, I would suggest to recognize certainly the connections that we have with one another, that empathic quality, as well as really recognizing the importance of creating the home to be a sanctuary and a sacred place. Certainly this time is an opportunity to really address that creative potential of our homes. You know, in the summertime we enjoy so much time outside. The weather becomes nicer, but also too we need to really recognize the importance of having a home sanctuary that is very, very, very peaceful. At the time of the summer solstice, we actually have Virgo rising. That earth and water element works very, very well together. You know, certainly the earth needs the water to grow and to nourish it. You know, even though we are enjoying a little bit more time outdoors this time of year, you know, certainly understand and recognize the importance of really bringing those earth elements into your home. We always suggest incorporating the energy of plants in the home. That very much helps certainly to clear the air in the home, but it also creates a grounding effect in our home as well. Cancer also represents our emotions and the connections we have with our families. So as the sun transits the sign of Cancer, we are being inspired to honor these connections, these family connections, and also to the family that is not necessarily the family that we are born into, but the extended family. I also learned a very, very, very long time ago the importance of the extended family and these connections that we have with one another. Certainly, you know, at the creative level, we really are all family. I also learned a very, very long time ago by a great man named Jose Silva to honor and recognize the entirety of humanity, depending upon their ages, as mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters. Imagine if we could allow ourselves really to recognize every human being from that perspective. We might think twice about what it is that we are energetically projecting towards them, whether it be hate, judgment, or any less than loving vibrational intention. Hopefully this video didn't get a little too winded. I know I may have digressed here and there and went off on a tangent, but many times when we enjoy this mind walk, if you will, with the higher levels of consciousness, the higher mind and the higher self, sometimes we go off on many, many tangents. And as always, it is at least my intention to inspire you on your journey and to share with you just some of these little tidbits of astrological insights, you know, and certainly to address it on a more personal level. We do look at every one of our individual astrological charts, because those are very unique, specific alignments. That chart, I observe it as our spiritual DNA, and I have many wonderful opportunities, especially during my time at the Mystical Moon, to enjoy time with clients, inspiring you on your journey. I actually already have my return date set aside in November for my coming back to the Mystical Moon in Florida. And until then, remain in the light, always in a place of love. Allow Spirit to guide you. Recognize how you're being guided. Enjoy the summertime that we are about to embark upon. Enjoy time with family. Celebrate always forever be joyous. Many blessings, and we will see each other again very soon. Namaste, everyone.